Karam Swamp on local community radio, Radio Karam. My guest and conversation partner this evening is Sara Levitas. She is a Melbourne-based principal designer with over a decade of experience across interior and furniture design. Her studio, Sara Levitas Design Studio, has built a reputation for a refined, considered aesthetic that sits at the intersection of art and function. Sara's work has been featured in Grand Designs Australia, The Design Files, Home Design Magazine, and Yellow Trace, and her bespoke furniture has been acquired by AD100 designers Ken Fulk and Summer Thornton. As the wife of a rabbi and mother of four, she brings a personal perspective to her work, including a particular interest in the design of Jewish communal spaces. Welcome to the program, Sara.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here.
So good to have you on. And it's been a little while since I've had a product designer, an industrial designer of sorts, as well as an interior designer on. We had an interior designer on last week, but that multidisciplinary approach, I think, is always so interesting and so important.
Yes, well, I am a bit of a hodgepodge of different things, so as we'll find out.
Well, I think we all are who are involved in the architecture as a big discipline and practice as a whole, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of things that you can do in this field, and I think that as you progress, I think that you are more comfortable experimenting with things that you weren't necessarily comfortable with. So like when I started off in interior design, I always had this little feeling inside me that I wanted to go into product and furniture. But, the more I worked in interiors and the more I had experience working with furniture, specifying furniture, and, designing custom pieces, then I felt more comfortable venturing into that. Yeah, I'm not an industrial designer, but I felt comfortable enough with my experience to, explore that. And I'm so happy I did because it really gives a lot of joy to me. And, yeah.
What is that little voice, that little intuition? What does it sound like to you?
Get shit done.
An urgency?
Yeah. I feel like when I have this feeling, it comes almost like out of nowhere. It feels like an inspiration that I need to follow through on. And that's been throughout, my entire life journey. I always feel like what pushes me forward is always this little voice that tells me, well, it's loud in my head, but it's, it's like telling me the next step. So, when it was time for me to, time to get married, I felt like this, I'm ready for it. When it was time for me to, I had 3 kids before I decided to completely pivot in my career and study interior design.
Wow.
It was, again, that voice inside me, this feeling inside me that was just, I couldn't ignore it. And it pushed me forward. And I feel like despite all the, day-to-day pressures, like you need to have that drive inside you that sort of overrides all that other noise and pushes you towards that goal, that vision that you have for yourself.
I love that. I don't think we talk enough about in creative space about actually listening to that voice that pushes us on. I recently learned that Michael Jackson used to get his team up in the middle of the night and go to the recording studio because he was so afraid that if he didn't lay down the track and at least start the recording, that God would give the idea to Prince.
Oh my God. What a tragedy.
But artists and visual artists and makers and craftspeople and designers, I think we operate in the same framework of urgency sometimes.
Absolutely. I find that in my quietest moments, and it's usually on Shabbat, and because we're Orthodox, I can't write, I can't do anything. It's in these moments, without fail, that I have my best ideas. It's like, at 6 a.m. when I'm up, and I shouldn't be up, and I'm like, damn, this is such a good idea. And I go, my mind's just creating this whole world. And it's across the board, like it's whether it's with interior design or product design, furniture design, even answering an email. Like in my head, I've already created this whole scenario, and it's always when I can't write anything down.
And you've got to keep it there for 12 hours.
And it ruminates in my mind. So I think sometimes it's not a bad thing. Sometimes when you do things on impulse, it doesn't come out the way you envision it. So I guess there's a reason that Shabbat exists for me. But it happens to me so often. This sense of urgency, these ideas just come to me, and I have to find a way to keep it in my mind until I can jot them down or draw them.
I love that. Take me back to the beginning. There is a question I love to ask all my guests, and that is, what is your earliest memory of a building or place?
So I grew up in Montreal, and the earliest like, I guess like a pivotal moment for me in recognizing architecture at this age. I was very young, and there was this building. This it's called Habitat 67 by Moshe Safdie.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I didn't even know who he was at the time. Like I didn't realize that I would love the rest of his body of work as much. I was probably like 9 or 10 years old, and we would go to the old port in Montreal, and it was across the St. Lawrence River. And I would look at it and I was like, what is this beautiful manifestation of reality? Well, what is this? Who thought of this? And I think there was something about it. I had this association we would go visit my grandparents in Israel every summer. And my parents had a house in this area. I think it's in Jerusalem, a little bit outside. I don't know. It's called Ramot. It's in one of the neighborhoods. And there was a building there, the same sort of cluster of buildings built on top of each other. And it's called, I can't remember. I think it's, oh my God, I can't remember.
Sitting like a cluster of
It looks like
cubes.
honeycombs.
Okay.
And I think it's called, no, my brain's not working.
It might come back later. That's
yeah,
okay.
maybe.
We'll share
It'll
image for the follow-up post on Instagram
Yeah.
for our listeners, so don't worry.
So I think that seeing Moshe Safdie's Habitat 67,
Yes.
I had this association with this other piece in this other building in Remote, and I think it sort of started creating these strong like reactions within me to architecture. And another trip, I remember this is where I decided I wanted to go into design, even though I took a completely different path afterwards.
And how old are you at this moment
So
on this trip?
I was 15,
Wow.
and I went to Prague.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at the architecture, and it took my breath away. I don't think anybody else was like noticing anything. And I was 15. I was just walking around breathless. I'm like, whoa, this is such incredible beauty, and the genius to create this, and the fact that it's still standing. I was just so blown away with it, and that definitely cemented a love for architecture and design. And when I was, going into university, I was really, really considering architecture, but I had a couple of things happening. I was traveling, and I was kind of discouraged from entering architecture. And I ended up going. I had a background in health sciences. I was just in sciences for a very, very long time, and I just felt like the natural continuation would be to go into something science and health related.
So be more polar opposite.
So opposite. Like I love people and I love interacting with people, but like I really struggled with kind of the physicality of it. So I ended up studying occupational therapy, which was so not me, like at all. And I studied that until I got married, and then I ended up traveling. My husband was doing his ordination in Israel, and we lived there for 4 years. And I studied health science, more variations of health sciences. And then, ultimately, when I came to that point of deciding to go into design, it was always there. And I was a bit disappointed in myself that I never listened to that part of me, that I didn't push myself hard enough and follow through with that when I was younger. Because, I had 3 kids, and then I was like, okay, now is my time to explore this part of me that is the loudest within. And yeah, it was a bit of a journey, but I got there in the end.
Is that why you're such a good listener to your own voice now, though?
I think so. I think that it's taken, a lot of mistakes. I usually feel like my intuition, my inner voice, guides me in the right direction. But I think that there was a lot of other voices, like telling me do something that's, in the health world, because you've just put so much time and effort in it. And it made sense at the time. And so I can't judge myself for my decisions that I made back then.
Not.
Just have to let it go.
It's all part of the journey that feeds our experiences that makes us better designers.
Yeah.
I find myself repeating that point both to my students that I teach and to listeners on this program. Have you ever done any health architecture or clinic interiors or anything?
I did a medical office. It wasn't really medical. It was a psychologist's office. But it wasn't like specifically, it was, just creating an office space and the waiting room. I did, because I have this background in occupational therapy, there was this little point where a period of my life where I had become obsessed with creating, because as an occupational therapist, you'd come into a house and you'd be like, okay, how are we going to adapt this space now to allow this person to function here? And this person, up until that point could have been absolutely fully functional. And it broke my heart to feel like, okay, at this point we're going to attach a bunch of, sterile looking
Grab
contraptions everywhere, the grab rails, the toilet seats, all the
commodes,
aids.
yeah.
It just felt, I don't know, it just felt so
Clinical and cold.
clinical and cold, but also like it erases so much of their identity.
Yes.
And it really affected me seeing that in my, when I was practicing like work. Well, I didn't really progress that far. I ended up deciding not to work in occupational therapy, but it gave me enough of a foundation to understand that there has to be a more aesthetically pleasing way to do it that gives a person dignity and doesn't make them feel like they're living in a hospital in their home. So I became obsessed with like designing grab bars, and I ended up working. I was going to say collaborating, but we didn't progress that far because different things happened. She was pregnant, I was dealing with little kids, and it kind of like fizzled out, which was very unfortunate. But she's an architect that works in modifying spaces for people with disabilities. Yes. So yeah, that was probably the closest I got to working.
I love that though. It's still design thinking in that niche. You get to OT work and the spatial element of OT work, and it's still design thinking. I want to point out that that trip to Prague was probably your first introduction and discovery of Art Nouveau.
Oh my God. And that stuck with me. But I do have to preface this with saying that my mother's from Latvia, and she's like a bird that collects gold things. Like our house was gaudy. There's no other way to describe it. Like Russian and gaudy. And I think a lot of that has affected me. It definitely has influenced my appreciation for ornamental design. And even though I may not necessarily apply it all the time because I understand the design language in Australia and Melbourne is very, very like
restrained.
Restrained would be the word. Yeah. Less, my parents have this like Eastern European background, and it was like there was just so much tchotchkes everywhere and art. My father was a painter as well. We had his art all over the house, and I just love that. And European design is my love language. I love it so much.
I love that. Tell me about that leap into studying interior design and finally committing to the dream. Was it scary?
I think it's always scary to go back to school when you're older. You have, I hated high school. Even though I was very academic, I didn't like school. Like I just didn't like the rigidity of it. And I like my freedom. I don't like people telling me what to do. I've always struggled with that. So going back to school, I think as an adult I was a lot healthier mentally. And, everything I did it because I wanted to do. And I put my heart and soul into studying. And I was definitely the oldest person in the class. And I know that, the teachers were definitely a lot more impressed with my, dedication. I would show up, class started at 8:30. I was there, 8 o'clock. I'm, making it happen for me. It was scary, but I just felt like I was in the right place, and I was so excited for it and so passionate about it. And within the first year, I was already taking on clients because I had been, in a way, I've always been interested in it. So, always offering advice, and people would come to me for advice. So it was very natural. And a friend of mine is an architect, and he started giving me side projects from his studio before I even graduated, which was very it was a huge,
amazing.
It was a huge, incredible experience for me.
Networks are everything.
Absolutely, they still are. That's all my work that I do is word of mouth. And I like it that way. I feel like when you get a client from word of mouth, they're coming to you already with this positive energy. I've heard good things about you, and let's see what you can do. So
they want your input. They want your expertise.
Or they liked what I did to their friend's house or their daughter's house or whatever it was.
Yes.
So yes, that's all my clients. I'd say 100% are all word of mouth.
I do definitely believe in the importance of professional training, especially some of the amazing recognized degrees that we have. But did you actually need it?
I think so. I think I needed it for my own confidence. Definitely. So, and I would recommend anyone who was considering it not to do it without a degree. First of all, it's something to fall back on. You could always, I think, if you wanted to ever, not necessarily, I went initially knowing that I would work for myself from the onset. But if you don't have that, if you don't want that either, it's a lot of hard work, and it takes a lot, it takes a lot out of you. Having a degree helps you just, be able to work for a firm. A lot of places won't consider you if you don't have anything. So it just opens up your doors a bit more.
Important advice. What's the biggest lesson then from uni and those uni years and the next world that you were coming into that is still with you today?
What I found interesting, and I don't know if this necessarily answers your question, so just stop me if it's not going in the right direction. When I was sitting in class with the younger students, I felt like there was just kind of like this laissez-faire attitude, which I was very shocked by. When I was doing uni in Montreal, I was in McGill University, and it was like so hardcore. Like the kids who got into the university wanted to be there and worked hard. And then I came to this space and I just felt like, a lot of times there was just, the homework wasn't, and I was just like thinking, am I just this
The apathy was shocking.
This old lady that just like is still stuck in the old world, like mentality of like, doing work to make the teachers happy. Cause I think that's where I was coming from. It was very strange for me. And I felt what I came to realize from that experience was that there's a lot of people in this field, and because it feels like sometimes it's oversaturated. Yes. Everyone's an interior designer.
Especially in Melbourne.
Everyone's an interior designer. Yeah. Everyone's doing everything.
Everyone's done the course.
And it gave me that confidence, because I was like, I worked so hard, and I know the content because I studied so hard, and I felt like it clarified things for me, not to feel so overwhelmed that everyone is just, an interior designer. Everyone I know is honestly like an interior designer. Yeah.
Have you gotten used to it yet, or does it bother you still that there's a certain disrespect, really, to go around? There's a kind of a twang of disrespect that comes with this phenomena of everyone being an interior designer, or everyone calling themselves an interior designer, because it's unregulated at the moment. There's no registration. Yeah. Unregulated profession.
Well, social media doesn't help.
It doesn't.
It definitely doesn't help. And I think it's cool. Like, I don't want to disrespect it. I think I'm not trying to come from a negative place. I'm just saying what I learned from my experience of going to university is that there's a lot of people, but not everyone puts their all into it, and they're not passionate about it. And so, like, just keep going. Just keep trying. Keep going. But it's fascinating that, interior architecture is very different, but interior design doesn't have that same, qualification need. And so anyone can technically be an interior designer. You can be a chef for many years and then design your house, and now all of a sudden you're getting clients. It's like, what?
Beware of the risks as well out there, listeners and clients.
But they're very talented. It doesn't take away from their talent. The question is, like, I don't know. It just doesn't feel like it's a very sustainable model overall, where it kind of like everyone can do it. But again, I don't know. Maybe I'm just coming from a bit of like a place of like, I worked really hard to get my degree. So I really would love if everyone also kind of put in the effort. But people are doing amazing things. Like, I follow a lot of incredible influencers, and they do amazing things. So I don't know. I guess I'm kind of backtracking on what I'm saying. I don't know.
Don't look too closely on some of those videos. I think sometimes it's not actually the design you love, it's the editing of the image and the right crop and the right framing. But I want to ask you, what does good design mean to you?
I think for me, design always starts with the people. And if the design like accommodates me as a human with all my human needs, then I think it's good design. I think it should revolve around the person. I think it's Arik Levy. Is that my brain's like stopped working. He said that it was a very like beautiful quote. Basically, that architecture or any space needs to work for the human and not the other way around. Yes. And I feel that when I come into certain spaces, it flows intuitively. That works. I feel like that makes a lot of sense to me. I feel calm in those spaces. When spaces are like a bit jarring, if it doesn't feel like it's human centered, then I think the architecture or that space in general doesn't work.
There's almost no point, I feel sometimes, if it's not for people and if it's not supporting human life and human function in that moment.
Yeah,
It becomes a sculpture, right?
totally. I mean, have you seen some of the trendy kitchens? I mean, as a mom of, 4
Four.
kids, I like some of the kitchens I see designed. I'm like, how does that even work? It only works for a specific type of person. It's not adaptable in any shape or form,
That's why they're wasting money on the second butler's kitchen.
Yeah, whatever it is, or even just the materiality.
Yes.
And like, it just feels like there's sometimes like there's more of a focus on the how photographical.
For how photogenic the project is. They're almost like this keeping up with the Joneses.
Exactly.
Like they want their project to be published,
Yeah.
to be picked
Yeah.
up by design files.
Rather than it be a space where you don't feel scared that some kid's gonna like bash their head into a corner and end up in the hospital. Which I've been to houses where it's like a bit terrifying. Like we've been to when the kids were little. I remember we went to somebody's house. It was overseas, and they were this older couple, and they had this beautiful, beautiful home, and clearly like their kids have outgrown it, and very like aesthetic and clean and modern. And I just remember like I my kids had to like glue them to my side. I'm like, don't touch a thing here, like at all. Stay away from everything. It just didn't feel livable to me. But I guess I'm coming from a different place as well. I'm not.
I agree with you. You know what gets me is when it's not livable and then there's a squishy little rubber corner glued on as the temporary retrofit until the kid grows up.
Yeah.
It's like there was a way around that. There
Yeah.
was a design solution around that, but we all had to be honest about who we are and how we're living
Yeah.
to work on that process.
Yeah, I agree.
Tell me about industrial design. How did it feel? Product design. Tell me about how did it feel when you got your first piece built and fabricated. And
I mean, to be honest, everything happened so quickly. It was around COVID time, and I was approached by a person who asked me to collaborate with them to design a collection of furniture that would be built overseas. So I started thinking about, what do I need? And that's just in general, like the way I approach things is like, it's always going to come from my perspective and my lived experience. So I was thinking, what would I want? And at the time, my husband and I were sharing the office because of COVID. And I was like, I could do with a bigger desk. I feel like we just need a bigger desk and something just, again, with that Art Nouveau aesthetic. And so I created this piece, and just everything with that other person just fell through. And it was from God, because the person was ultimately ended up being a bit sketchy.
it wasn't a good collaboration.
It wasn't a good collaboration.
It wasn't a good click.
It was just, there was not a lot of transparency happening at all. And I need that.
But that was the impetus for you to actually do
Absolutely.
that piece of design.
Yeah,
Wow.
which was always in my head. I always have I've got notebooks with my drawings in it, but I never thought I didn't know how to manifest it. And so when this person came along, I designed this piece, and I just put an image of it at the 3D render, because I was drawing it up on CAD, and then I made a 3D render. I put it up, and this big architectural firm in Australia, I don't know how they found my Instagram. Out of the blue, they just texted me, "Do you have this table? We'd like to order it." And I was like, "Oh,
yes, always answer yes."
Yeah, I would love to say yes, but I'm like, I don't even have a manufacturer yet. I don't even have a system in place yet for how I'm building it. So, I had the technical drawings because that's just what I was working on for this person. But once they dropped out, I was like, "Wow, what do I do?" So I ended up connecting with Charles Sanford, who's this amazing, I think they're in Preston. It's a woodworking shop, and I had a couple of orders come in, and I built my first prototype, and then I ended up, once I was happy with the prototype, went along and had these pieces manufactured, and then an interior designer in the States connected with me, and she was like, "I want your piece." I'm like, "Okay, well, it's made in Australia, and it'll cost you as much as it costs to make the desk to have it shipped to America." So I connected with a friend who has an art gallery and in LA, knows everyone, fantastic person, and he connected me with this beautiful family that has a woodworking shop in LA, downtown LA, and I started to have those pieces made in LA, and it kind of actually shifted to almost like 100% of my customers in the last 3 years have been from the States.
Amazing.
Which has been really cool. And it's being sold on the Expert platform, which is this really cool interior design platform that sells furniture and also allows people to kind of hire a designer for an hour. So yeah, it's being sold on that, and also ordered directly through me. But that's been huge for me. And the designers that have ordered it have been like people that I have admired from far away for so long, and then to see that they just even acknowledge that piece and then choose to order it is huge.
Incredible. What a almost like a fangirl moment, but it's
Absolutely.
such a huge validation
Yeah.
of your work and your effort, and has these beautiful scalloped Art Nouveau details.
Yeah. I'm really proud of them. And I hope to continue to develop it. I took a bit of working in my own business. And with the kids and my husband's job, I feel like I have scaled back so much in terms of my output. I just felt like at some point it was just too many things happening. And I realized that I feel like I just have enough self-awareness at this stage of my life to be able to comfortably scale back and just take on what I want to do. And this is coming from a place of privilege because, my husband's the primary breadwinner, and I'm able to kind of like invest as much as I want to invest in it and focus on different things. So there's periods when I focus more on the interior design, and then when those kind of clients taper off, I focus more on the furniture. And then now I'm working on a little bit of art. I've always had both my mother and my father are both very, very art obsessed. We had art all over our house. My mother always collected weird things, just weird. I mean, the underlying theme with my mom is weird. There's so many weird things in my house growing up. And now I feel like I'm at this place where I want to express something, not necessarily through furniture, but through art. And it's coming from very much a part of my identity, my Jewish identity, my kind of ancestral identity.
Yes.
There's I'm really connecting with this idea of how ancient we are. It scares me a little bit how old we are and how we've been through so much for so long and we're still here. And I'm learning, more about different sides of my family. I recently discovered that my great-grandmother, who I'm named after, is actually Spanish. She was very, very Sephardi. I do not look Sephardi. I am super not Sephardi looking. But she was dark from Spain. And so a lot of the work that I'm the body of work that I'm exploring now is that the multitude of identities that Jewish people have throughout our long ancient history. And I'm excited to see how it ends up. There's a lot of pieces I need to work out, but I'm hoping to be able to release something by the end of the year.
I love that.
Yeah.
So
I'll keep you updated.
Please do. So many artists at the moment have been called in to the easel and to the brush and to this moment of awakening. I think we're having an extremely exciting cultural moment in a movement that's emerging in a response, and really probably from a place of Jewish pride.
Yeah, I think also we don't have the words for a lot of the things that we're feeling. And I think a lot of, again, my emotional response after everything that's happened, the last 2.5 years, it affected my work. There's a part of me, thankfully I had these incredible clients. They were actually from Queensland, and I did 2 of their properties. They're just the most angelic people. And if I didn't have them as my clients at the time, I think I would have just dropped it, just been I felt so overwhelmed with everything going on. And also I felt this need to protect, this mama bear craziness. I needed to protect my kids and to protect my husband, who's 3 times my height. I just felt I needed to protect everyone.
Yes.
And I really let go of a lot of that time and effort that I was putting into my design firm. And like I said, that those clients that I had were so incredible and so understanding, and they weren't Jewish, which was it was really comforting. It gave me a hope in humanity.
Yes.
That there are incredibly good people out there. And so, yeah, I took a step back, and my emotions definitely always affect my output. And I think that it's really important to take care of your mental health when you run your own business. That's what everything came down to, this entire conversation. Just make sure you take care of your mental health. And yeah.
Have you found though the work or the business that when you're shifting into quality instead of quantity, you can be more judicious? Are you finding you're enjoying it more? Are you finding the
100%.
work is better?
100%. Like it comes from a place of passion and love and less resentment.
Yes.
You know, when I'm dealing with things that are not necessarily what I want to be dealing with, there's a lot of negative emotions that affect what's happening.
So what's your litmus test? What's your red flag for a client that you'll straight out reject or pretty early on?
I mean, it's hard to say. And I don't want to sound like too kind of weird about it.
Well,
but
it's
like
important. We have to have these conversations, I think, in design and across our industry and within our industry. There's so much advice in being judicious because we carry so much risk that a bad client is worse than no clients.
But some people can kind of like tolerate more than others. So I'm just not that kind of person. Like I can't say I demand respect, but like you need to be really respectful and, you know, reply respectfully to emails and not be rude and not say weird, inappropriate things.
That's the bare minimum. I'm sorry to tell you, but I feel that's the bare minimum.
Like I've had some very interesting, weird interactions from, you know, usually the partners. Like, you know, and the field of work that I do is a luxury service.
Yes.
And a lot of times, and I guess, I mean, I can't generalize because it could just be that this particular, like my clientele, just who I attracted. But it's usually like, you know, the woman who I'm dealing with day to day. And then the partner comes in, the husband sometimes comes in a bit, you know, rash, and it's not always. Like I'd say probably 80% of my clients, it's incredible, and it's a unified
They're
project.
A team.
They're a team.
You're not having to do marriage counseling on them.
No, but then there are that small percentage where I am feeling like I don't have a degree in psychology. I should not be doing this. Like you need more help than I can offer. And
the kitchen is not going to save you.
There's a lot going on over here, and it also like it makes me feel like, you know, I doubt my own work when in reality, you know, and I'm very grateful for my husband being who he is, because he's just the greatest, you know, motivator for me. He's reminding me that it's like, you know, what I'm doing is I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and that kind of that weirdness is coming from that other side. Like, you know, he's seeing it objectively, but in the moment I'm like, you know, overwhelmed. Like, is this really what I should be doing? Is this the career for me? Like, do I give up? So it's been a journey, and that's why I'm saying, like, you have to take care of your mental health. There's moments when I felt like it was just too much. I was taking on a lot of projects. I was saying yes to a lot of different things, and, you know, I was dealing with clients that weren't necessarily healthy for me.
Yeah.
And I'm so small, like such a small firm, that it kind of felt like I don't have that privilege to be able to tell people, you know, I don't feel like I can take you on, or I don't necessarily want to continue this project because I don't feel comfortable anymore. But now I am. Now I feel like, I don't know, maybe I hit 40 and I'm like, I just don't give a shit anymore.
You're off the chains.
No, but I feel so much more comfortable, and I think that every experience, in the moment it was hard, but every experience taught me more and more about myself, and it gave me more and more of an inner strength that I didn't know I had.
I love that.
And I think that just, it's like part of life. These mistakes and these failures, they help you grow, even when it sucks in the moment, and, you know, you feel like you're giving up. That's the next step. But it's really important to have a good support team. So for me, my husband is my incredible support team. He's always lifting me up when I'm just like, oh, I can't do this anymore. And, you know, I would say my kids are, but they're not. They take up a lot of my energy. I love them, and I love them so much. But yeah, it's hard work to be like, you know, be everything for my kids and my family, but also give my all to my business. So, you know, baby steps. I feel like I told this to a friend the other day when we both talk about, she runs a fashion styling, like consulting company. And she was, we're kind of in the same place in terms of our businesses. And I was just telling her, like, it takes 1 million baby steps to get to that final destination. It's not these massive leaps. And those leaps sometimes aren't sustainable. So I'm still in it. I'm in it for the long haul. I'm going to be doing this honestly forever. I love design. I love art. I love people. I love designing for people. And I think that when you have the right person, that you're working with the right person, it's magic. It feels magical.
And the work and the project and the result becomes magic.
Yeah, and it stays. It's like it becomes almost like your legacy. It stays. People appreciate it, and they'll come to me. They do. Like I get clients that say, "Oh my God, like I still love this space. I still love it. It hasn't changed. Like we changed so much, but for somebody to come back and say, I still appreciate the space as it is, it's really special."
Oh, I love that. What an absolute blessing. You mentioned that you love art and you have a really beautiful home that you live in yourselves, and a beautiful art collection was featured in design files as well.
Thanks.
It was quite an old one.
It's old. It was
that
like
article.
Yeah, we had just moved into our house. It was quite. The walls have since gotten a lot more filled up.
The collection is quite busy now. But back then, now design files have pivoted into featuring apartments and apartment living, and are more interested in smaller spaces and how people fit a lot into a little, or how people use rented places.
Yeah.
But I remember at the time this article, quite a long while ago, we wouldn't often see rented spaces published that were made their own.
Yeah.
And I feel we have a problem where people don't commit to where they live. And that creates a separation, or they're a tapping out of their lives.
Absolutely.
Almost. Will you say more?
It's like you're in this like temporary space, and I think that it doesn't sit well with me. That feeling, everywhere I go, I'm always trying to like park myself there. When we go to Florida, my family lives in Florida now, and we stay at this apartment where it's my father's apartment, and we've made it our own. Like I've bought curtains, I've made it ours because I need to feel comfortable and I need to feel at home. And my favorite thing in the world is to be cozy. I just love being cozy. So it's when people come to our house that we live here in Melbourne, a lot of the comments are, this feels like I'm in a cottage. Like it definitely gives cottage vibes. And I think it's because I have an eclectic collection of artwork, and just the way I put the colors and the patterns and the furniture together. I think every space needs to feel like a respite from the rest of the world. Every space in your home. It shouldn't just be like your bedroom. I think every room, even the bathroom. Like we spend enough time in the bathroom that it should be like an enjoyable space to be in. And it doesn't have to be fancy and expensive materials. Like, in the home that we live in, it's like I think it's over 100 years old, and it's like this old Californian bungalow, like literally like at its end. And it has its charm, and you make it work. And the furniture you choose needs to work for that space. Like, I don't want it to clash. A lot of the work I do is going into clients' homes and pulling out that furniture that clashes, and then, them looking at it now and being like, oh, this was always there. We just were doing it wrong. It's incredible how much like furniture and art and accessories change the entire dynamic of a space, the breathing room in a space, and all of that affects our mood and how we behave day to day. Like if you're grumpy, I don't know, maybe it's the color of your walls. I don't know, maybe change your curtains. I mean, get therapy, but also like change your curtains, sort that out.
Well, hugely, our environment shapes us and shapes our mood. But is it not such an injustice where people say to themselves, oh, well, we'll just live here for a bit and then the kids will move out and then we'll leave? Or, oh, it's rented, I won't do anything nice, or I don't care. But you let part of yourself down.
Totally. But I don't think you can change that kind of mentality. I think it's a mentality.
Do you reckon it's a mentality, or do you think it feels like it's too hard?
I mean, like, I think that there's certain people that even in a space that is temporary, they'll push themselves and they'll make it their own. I don't know. Like, I feel like there's a bit of a, like, I imagine in other areas of their life, they're also kind of like, just, we're not going to invest in that. It's not worth my time, or is it worth it? And I think a lot of times with interior design, the question I get a lot in the beginning is like, from the partners or the person, just questioning me, like, how much of is this valuable? Is it
Yes.
worth it? Is it going to change my life?
What's
And
the value of you and your
Yeah.
service?
And I think 100% it will change your experience day to day.
Yeah.
And even subtle changes affect us. You know, you can feel it. When I come into a certain space, it doesn't feel good. I don't feel good.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just very in tune with it, and some people are less, so it doesn't bother them.
So it's really interesting to hear your position that it's a mindset thing, and that you'd opt out effectively out of all the value discussions. So I feel like in the architecture discipline, we get pushed so hard that we have to communicate the value of our work, that we need to advocate up to government, we need to advocate across to the public, that we need to explain because people don't know, people don't understand, and surely everybody wants a good outcome.
Well, I think architecture it's like a necessity. I think it's, you know, I look at interior design as a luxury.
It's one system for me.
And I think that's fantastic. That's a fantastic way to look at it.
Interior
Yeah, I
design
think-
practices is a luxury.
Yeah, I think that it
Add-on.
is a luxury. And I get the architect because that's like the bones of the home.
Yeah.
And that affects, you know, the layout. And I think that interior design is very, very powerful. But there's only so much interior design can help.
I feel that you might have some really pertinent advice here. I wonder, what advice do you have for architecture as a discipline and profession when matters of communicating the value of our work comes up and the value of services?
It's a very big question.
I know, it's a hard one, sorry.
I mean, I think that architecture is, you know, I work with, sometimes people hire me to help them pick the finishes for their volume builder. And I mean, there is an architect involved in that as well. There's something very personalized. You know, your architecture, you're creating the home exactly as I said. You're creating it to revolve around you and to serve you and to work with you as you adapt in like every situation of your life. And I think it's really important for people to realize that like there's not a lot of times in their life where they're going to be spending this much money and invest so much time. And if you're going to do it, just do it well the first time. So you don't have to, you know, change it around. Interior design is a bit different. And I'm talking more, I guess, not necessarily interior architecture. I'm talking more about interior decoration. Okay. That can change. Yeah. That's, you know, you change that with your life. As the children grow up, you get a more expensive sofa, you know, different bar stools. You can invest in art. I think architecture is like the basis for it all. It's where it all sits. So I think it's really important for people to understand that from the beginning you want something that works for you and not the other way around. You don't want to be like accommodating yourself to the space. That's not functional.
When you come into those volume builder projects and you're picking the finishes, often out of maybe a limited range.
Very limited.
Do you feel that it's a bit lipstick on a pig, or it?
Yeah, I literally do. Sometimes I'm like, what am I doing?
So those jobs are out. Those are the red flags now.
No, not necessarily, because there's some people that's what they can afford, and you know, I'm happy to give them my input, and it does change the space. You know, if they want to go with all gray, and I'm kind of veering more like towards a bit more of like
a human color.
Yeah, a different palette that I think they'll appreciate once they're living in the space. When you're looking at, you know, 2D. Like, you know, images, it's hard to pick what you want, and it's hard to envision for them. Yes. For me, it's like I'm looking at it, I'm like, wow, this is going to look so bland and boring. There's like zero layering here. So just giving them a bit of like direction, I think it helps a lot. It's not my favorite projects, but I've worked with enough clients that have been so grateful, and I can appreciate doing it. I think it's important. Sometimes, you know, if I'm sort of in between, I've got space for it, then I take it on.
It's all about also working with good people, right? When people are grateful and they're giving you that appreciation, and you know you're making a difference,
Absolutely.
and you're impacting their life and their project.
Yeah.
You're happy to be involved with those.
Yeah. And they tell my clients is I can help direct you, but I'm never going to pick the final, you know, finish or anything. It's always going to be you because you are living in that space. And that's just the way that I work in interior design. There's a lot more like hands-on interior designers that pick the entire scheme and just sell that to their client. I never felt comfortable doing that. I always wanted dialogue happening, and I wanted them to ultimately pick the piece. So the final choice is them. Whatever sofa we're going with, whatever material we're going, finished product at them,
Yes.
and they have to just go along with it.
With our current AI technologies, our emergent position, it feels like the interior design space is under threat. But in a way, you're practicing product design, and now we're excited to hear art.
I think
Is that the resistance? Is that the space where there's opportunity?
I'm at the moment I'm finding that AI is like this dream assistant that I never had. So I'm really positive. I feel like it's interior design is only going to benefit. I guess at the scope that I'm doing it, I feel like it really helps me a lot. At the end of the day, so much of what AI is producing for me is through my human input.
Yeah.
I think that it helps for somebody who runs a small business by themselves. It always overwhelmed me. And I think a lot of the reason I've scaled back my business was because I was trying to manage too many different things that I wasn't necessarily, like, it wasn't my specialty. I don't specialize in business management.
Yes.
So AI helps with that. I think that I imagine it's the same as books. The Kindle came along, audiobooks came along. I think that there's always going to be something really special about working with a human who can, read the energy in a room and adapt to your needs. I don't think AI at this stage for at least a couple of years is going to be able to do that. So I
We've
think
got longer than a couple of years.
Yeah, I mean,
between us.
I don't know how quickly it's advancing in that respect, but I don't feel like pessimistic about it. I don't feel worried about it.
Are you using agentic AI in some of that assistant workflow, or are you using it really just as a tool? Do
Yeah,
that?
I'm using the Claude co-work. I'm finding that really, really helpful. It's I think that is the agentic AI.
I'm not too close into Claude.
Oh, okay. So
You still have to tell me about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm just exploring it now. It's just really, really helpful with the back end. It's just kind of setting up my processes, and a lot of the, I'm kind of going over some of my fee structures and my templates, and I'm realizing it definitely all needed an update. So Claude is incredible with
And
that.
Claude is doing all this.
Yeah, well, it's helping me, organize myself in a way that when I present to my clients in human form, I'm coming with a much more organized, clear, concise presentation.
Yes.
And I think that's very helpful. And it's always been around, that kind of smaller work for them. Now I just don't have to do that smaller work, and I can focus on the bigger projects because it helps with that. But it doesn't it's not going to go into a room and be like, you need to change the window and you need to change the floor. I feel like, there are people who stick pictures in and they're like, how do I change this room? At the moment, it's still very it doesn't feel like it's correct yet, but it will progress. And I think we're just going to have to adapt and find ways to make it work for our business. Yeah. And there's nothing else to do. I can always, I don't know, become a baker. I don't even like baking.
There's a hypothesis that says that with the rise of and ubiquitous nature of AI that we will step into eventually, maybe not, but more than likely we'll head towards, that the value of the handmade, the hand manufactured, the craft, the painted work is only going to go up.
I agree. I'm excited for that era. And that's what I mean when there's always going to be the human is still going to be valued, because AI is going to be able to do so many things, but there's something very unique about, something that's handmade, handcrafted, human thought. That would be the next step. Yeah, I don't think it's going to go away. And, people thought that books were going to become obsolete, but they're not. I prefer a book to my Kindle or to any sort of computerized way of, reading a book. Honestly, I don't even listen to podcasts. I know it's terrible. Except for this one.
Except radioactive to the studio.
Yeah. No, I as much as I love technology, I really, really appreciate, just the old school way of things. And maybe it's because I was born in the 80s. I don't know. I still haven't really, it'll be interesting to see how our kids are how they relate to the handcrafted and how they relate to, you know,
They've already rejected social media, so
to a degree. I mean, in practice, they haven't.
really,
In practice, I see it, you know, they're all pretty addicted. We're all pretty addicted. But I do value, like, you know, I can go to an art gallery and really appreciate it. And I hope that the future generations can.
oh, so do I.
Yeah. It would be a shame.
Do you feel that there's such a big pressure for designers and especially the perhaps smaller practices and sole practitioners to have a very heavy Instagram presence and to do that social media marketing?
Absolutely. It's like, it's, I talk about this all the time with this friend of mine who's the fashion stylist. It's a whole different monster that you have to deal with. And a part of me just wants to like just shut it off and be like, you know, all my clients are word of mouth. I'll just stick with that.
That's my dream. Incidents and references in your stories.
Thank you.
What's your handle for our listeners to have a look?
It's Sara Lev, SARALEV Studio.
You're always sharing something beautiful and ornate and delicious and sparkly.
Well, I love to curate. That's, you know, within my interior design practice, procurement, curation, that is makes my heart sing. Just looking at furniture and finding pieces.
The search, the hunt.
The hunt, yeah. And, you know, I've done these amazing projects and I realized, like, with my Instagram, I feel like I have to do, this is for my future self. Well, not my future self, for my future. My goals for the future are to be better at taking professional photographs. It's really important as well, which I kind of like underestimated. I've done a couple of shoots, but then I've got these projects that I kind of I wanted the people to just live in them. I felt like it was like I'm stepping into their boundary. We've worked so hard and spent so long creating it. And now it's like, sorry, don't go into your house for a day because I need it to be styled. And I kind of like missed the window where I can do it. And it's happened multiple times. And moving forward, I have to just be a lot more on top of it so that I've got this Instagram content so I can feed the monster.
I think they drill it to you, and I think first year of design school and art school, always document your work.
Yeah.
Document.
Yeah, and that kind of went over my head because I was like, I just need to get this project done, and I just need to give it to them and just let them live in it already. And so yeah, that's what I need to work on.
To feed the Instagram monster, maybe assistant Claude.
Yeah, I don't even know how to work that out yet, but if it can do it for me, great. Yeah.
What gives you hope?
I think seeing, the appreciation for beautiful things is never going to go away. People are always going to be inspired by beauty. So I think that, for me, in terms of my practice, that's always, like, people are always going to be interested in creating beauty and comfort around them. For me as a human, what gives me hope? It's a very hard question because I feel a little bit hopeless because of the current climate. But I think that connecting to the work that I'm doing with the art, I feel like there's this kind of ancient energy that's being reawakened within me and within so many other people in our community around the world. And I think that gives me hope. We're not afraid, and we're standing our ground and reminding ourselves more than we're reminding anyone that we're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I think it's more for me and for my family and for my community than anyone else. I'm not doing it for anyone else because I honestly don't give a shit what they think.
No, it's got to start
like
from there.
I can't be bogged down by that. And so just doing it for us and creating Jewish art for us and for the wider community to see, like, that we are ultimately just human, and whatever caricatures and like insane things that people have said around us, just to humanize us again. I think it's really important to let our work speak for us, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It so does. Thank you so much for joining me on the program, Sara.
Pleasure. This was so much fun. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Marcus.
And I'm Gabrielle.
From the Darlings Family Trust.
And you're listening to Radio Karam.
Thanks for joining me for another evening of radio architecture with Ilana Razbash. This live show was broadcast and recorded in the Radio Karim studio on Bunurong country. You can replay the show wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for tuning in and supporting community radio. Take care.
Hi, it's Marcus from Front here. We love listening to Radio Karim. You don't need to be on the peninsula to listen to Radio Karim. You can be anywhere in the world.
You're listening to Radio Architecture with Ilana Razbash and Sri Belling aka Z6 from All That Architecture.